Today's podcast is proudly sponsored by Awaza, the name behind some of the most trusted pond equipment in the hobby. If you're serious about koi or looking to upgrade your pond, consider looking at Awaza equipment. The Profi-cleared drums, water pumps and systems are designed to handle serious pond loads with minimal faff. And if your goal is crystal clear water, then look no further. Awaza allows you to enjoy your fish rather than just constantly firefighting your setup. And to be honest, it's the sort of gear I wish I used from day one. Big thanks to Awaza for supporting this podcast and for supporting ponds across the UK with gear that just works. Hi and welcome back to the Koi Perspective podcast. I'm delighted to say we've got a guest this week, Adam Byer from Byer Koi Farm. How are you doing, Adam?
Hi. I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. And we've got William from the Yorkshire section and my ever-present co-host at the minute. How are you doing, Will?
Yeah, not so bad yourself.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. We've pretty much finished the koi show season now. I mean, Birmingham was the last one, but we met up there, didn't we, at the Birmingham show? That was good fun.
Yeah, a real nice experience, in fairness.
And
First time down there.
Simon did pretty well as well, didn't he?
He did. Fair play to him. Well done.
Yeah, mopped up, grand champion, size 5 champion. I said he's not got enough room in his car for all the food and trophies he took home, but yeah, fair play to Simon. But yeah, I've been messaging Adam on and off probably since we started this podcast this year, wanting to get him on because he's an open book of knowledge for people to go and visit and talk to about. So I'm sure there'll be loads of people who can think of loads of questions. You're quite approachable. You're happy for people to come and visit you and ask questions about the parent sets and things, aren't you, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're open every weekend, so people can just rock up. People typically come to buy fish, but we're there for advice and guidance on absolutely anything and everything. And we do get asked. And doing what we do, we have a huge range of experience as well. So always happy to help people along.
Awesome. So I've prepared some questions. I think probably a good place for us to start is for us to have a little bit of a background on Adam Byer Koi Farm. So what current varieties do you breed, or is there too many to list?
That is a good question. We are going through a process at the moment where we're synthesizing that list of varieties down so that we can use our space to produce them in a higher quality, in higher volumes. And then the varieties that we don't breed, we will import those from Japan. And so from a customer perspective, they get the full range. But that's how we're going about things. Varieties that we are continuing to breed here is Kahaku, obviously. That's how we made our name. I'm sure you'll get onto that later, all our early successes. So, just this year, for example, one of our customers won Baby Champion at Scottish Koi Club's show with a show that we bred here. And that's a key variety. Those two varieties we've invested heavily in broodstock in actually over the last couple of years, mainly from Dainichi Sekiguchi on the Showa side, Dainichi on the Showa side and the Kahaku side. So that's your two mainstays. Goshki is a newcomer, but it's absolutely staying with us. I think it's a terrific variety, very interesting because of the high contrast between the colours when you get it right. And we've hit on a fantastic parent set there. So that's going to be a big target for me to expand my parent sets on when I go out in November this year, November 2025. I'm back to Niigata to look for more broodstock. Also, on the Deutz metallic side, Beni Kikakuru is a variety that we are having some great successes with. And I now have, I think, 3 parent sets. It's a real toughie. It's comfortably as tough as Showa. Obviously, with the Deutz metallic being outside of Gosanki, it doesn't have quite the same following, but the people that love it really love them. And I find them interesting. So that's something we're going to continue to focus on.
Yeah.
Kikusu as well. And then on the, again, in the Kawari area, Deutz Chiba is a variety we stumbled on 4 years ago, and we've been investing and developing a specific pattern type of our own from the new, from the parent sets that we're using, which are based off Yamaju female Deutz Chibas. We're going to be continuing with those and further developing our particular pattern style, and also Deutz Metallica Chiba as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chargoi, we have our Oakley Chargoi, 105 centimetres, very well-known line. And on the Makashi side, we have our Opaline, and that's a Marusei-based female. So that's I'm sure I probably missed something out. That's basically what we are synthesizing down to.
You've
Oh,
missed
so
out.
that's the reduced one.
Yes.
That's fair enough.
You missed out my favourite one, Adam.
What's that?
Asagi.
All right. I thought you were going to say Kage Shiro.
Oh yeah, Kage Shiro as well. Yeah, I like a bit of that. But
No.
no, your Asagi line's done really well in the UK show scene as well, hasn't it? Probably worth mentioning.
Yes, it is worth mentioning, actually. Thank you. Yeah, and we still have that, and that will. I mean, the last few years, if you had a Byer Koi Farm Asagi in your show vat, it's going to take you a long way to being successful. It's been fantastic, really.
Yeah.
Consistently beating a decent number of other non-Byer Koi Farm, probably mostly Japanese koi in the same classes, size 2, size 3, size 4. So that's been great. Actually, we added Shisui to that roster recently as well. I'm not sure. We have actually a show about 3 or 4 years ago. It was in the World Industry Koi magazine. The Birmingham and one of the Birmingham shows, and we won Best Deutz. One of our customers won Best Deutz with a Shisui from us. I only found out about it through that.
Do Shisuis come naturally from Asagi parent sets, or do you have to use Shisui parents?
You need to use Shisui parent sets. I think occasionally you do when you run a spawning, depending on what the variety is and depending on what the origin of the parent set is, you do sometimes get some throwbacks to other varieties or other colour types. But I think when I've read Asagi, I've done it a few times now, I've never had a Shisui in there, and actually vice versa. So actually Shisui we're working on as well. But I'm afraid, Joe, they are there.
Mm-hmm.
But along with, let's say, the Chargoi and the Makashi Ogons, I'd envisage that each year we'll breed 1 or 2 of those 4.
Yeah.
And then cycle around. Next year, breed another 1 or 2 of them and then come back to it.
One of the questions that's just on my mind now, we'll come on to some other bits. But so, say for instance, when you've got like a good line that you're really happy with, let's just take like your Asagi line for example. Like when I visited your farm, I really kind of saw some of the traits in the female, like the white skin on her and things, even though she's aged quite a lot. Like, what would happen if one day you just went out and she died? Like, what would happen then? Is that line just kind of like gone, or is there ways for you to continue it after she's gone? Like, one of the pressing things on my mind is like livestock. People say, "Oh, livestock is dead stock," and you got to treat it like that. And I suppose you can't account for these things, can you? So, is it as brutal as that, Adam?
That is a great question, and what I can say just straight off on Asagi is we have kept some of our Asagis from her just in case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we've started to do that about 4 years ago across all of our top end breeding pairings. We've started to do that.
Just on a precautionary basis, then, or
Yes. Initially, let's say, for example, with Deutsche Chiba, some of the pattern styles we get, I intend to take on using some of our Deutsche Chibas to generate that. We haven't got there yet because I can't buy them the way that we produce them.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite unique. Initially, at the moment, it's as a just in case. I mean, Oakley, for example, is a huge Chargoi female, 105 centimeters, and I visited Otsuka. I don't think it was on the trip when I was with you, Joe. I think it was the trip prior to that. Visited Otsuka. He knows the fish. He knows our fish, and he showed me a sibling. There's just 2 that he had that were that special. So on that one, I've kept some as a just in case. On our MGS Showa, I've kept a whole range. In fact, Joe, when you visited, there was a Tancho Showa which stuck out to you in one of the tanks as we were walking around, and I've actually kept about 10 fish. I'm starting to.
Yeah. I suppose you've got, whenever you put in so much time and so much effort, you've got to protect almost not the financial investment as well in something like your Chargoi line, but also like the time and effort that's gone into like creating that and the failed ones that have come before it as well. Because what goes into creating a parent set for those that do not have a clue about breeding, who think chuck a male and a female together, like how much thought has to go into that process, or is it trial and error?
It's a combination of the two things. But I'll give you an example of Kohaku as well, and also actually just to add to the. I'll come back. I will answer that, but also just to add to your question about what happens if our Asagi female stop breeding. Part of it depends on. Let's say you picked a Sagi there. It is a variety we breed well, but how critical is that to buy a koi farm? It's an important variety because we happen to have a very good parent set on it. Kohaku, for example, is a different ball game. Now, it might be that the last couple of years, our Kohakus haven't been firing. Okay, but that's a more important variety to buy a koi farm. And on this question, I wish now that I had kept some of the Kohakus that we had bred from 2014, 15, 16, 17 to continue those lines. But as we were developing the business, we had to sell every single Nisai every year just to keep the business moving forwards.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that I've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of how I would put parent set together, thought does go into it, opportunity comes into it. I'm looking for the best traits I can find in each of the parents, males and females. That Asagi female that we have is a good example. As you were saying, Joe, she's aged now. She was never, to look at her, she was never the most beautiful Asagi in terms of her Matsuba and pattern, let's say. But she had a fantastic head. I always look for a good head, actually, the physical structure of the head. That's my one must-have feature. So I'm looking for a very strong, broad head.
Yeah.
I think when you're looking at a koi's body, I think that's one of the sort of its defining features of a nishikoi, of a koi.
Yeah.
Got that broad head that joins neatly to the shoulder. The head's got to be high enough. It has a certain aspect to it. So I think that's the one thing I don't compromise. I can't compromise on that, on the head. And then also, let's say in that case, Natsagi has particularly good skin, very white, good skin, and that alone counts that one in. So in that instance, that's enough for her to make, let's say, our breeding program, for me to invest time and resources and facilities into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
just to come offshoot that. Sorry, Adam.
No worries.
For you, then, just offshoot that. Is lineage more important or the quality of the animal? So, for instance, obviously we're on the topic of Asagi. Would an Oya Asagi be more desirable than, let's say, one from a lesser breeder or a lesser known breeder, I should say, but has better qualities?
I wouldn't rule either of the two out, but in general, I aim, if I'm getting new broodstock, I'll aim to get from a breeder that has been breeding that variety for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With my Asagi female comes from Yugenji. Oya is obviously exceptional. Yugenji also has a very good line in Asagi that's been going a very long time. The male Goshi. Same. So in that instance, I bred Kajaku 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and I got a female from, I think it's Marusho, something like that. I actually can't remember. I can't remember. I'd have to look back, but it was smaller farm, okay, that specialised in it, but as well as a few other things. And in that instance, I brought that female in, and that was because the female was fantastic quality, really incredible quality. The Beni on it shone. It wasn't just shiny. It was almost like backlit.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was just incredible when it swung around. It just stood out. And so that was an example of where, and in actual fact, the breeder said to me, it produces the darker type of Kajaku. And at the time, I didn't really understand what that was about. I think it was a female that he'd used and that he'd given me access to. Anyway, we bred that fish, and I ended up with what you'd now look at, and most people would now look at, and they regard them as like a Beni Ginger.
Right, almost. Okay, yeah. Now, they were from a Kajaku, but
if I were to show you a picture of it now, the first thing you'd think of, the Beni Gingers are in trend with the amazing pattern and so forth. And it like a dark Kajaku. Oh, Beni Ginger.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I'll try either. I try. Part of it comes down to opportunity.
Yeah.
And
what's available at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, frankly, once I get a female in, it's then just a question of spawning. One, do they spawn? Because they may not do. Hopefully, you can get them to spawn. Are they a good spawner? Are they eggs fertile? None of those things are certain. And then if they are, and if you've got a decent volume of eggs, again, that's not certain. But if you've got, then we'll put them to 2 or 3 males and rear them separately. And then we do that too.
Yeah.
So that's the trial and error part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's anybody out there that's Asagi crazy like me, I would highly recommend, and I need to get some myself. Maybe this year I'll have to come and steal some of Adam's best ones from him and grow them on. But I really, really like Adam's Asagi line. And one of the real things that intrigues me, and only comes from being able to see that female, is that now she's a little bit older and almost like her blue or the Matsubamon has gone away. It's the skin that she has is pearly white underneath. And sometimes I think with other Asagi lines, let's just take like Oya as example, I think if the Matsubamon wasn't there, it'd be like black underneath. So it's like a grey colour. Sometimes I see Asagis which are grey, and then I'll see other Asagis which I think are blue. And I know it's all like Sumi to some extent, but I think with that female, I just think you've got if she's got like natural shiroji under that skin, and you can see it almost like around the pupils of the eyes as well, which is quite unique. I just think she's an amazing Asagi female, and she passes on that face shape that you talk about, Adam. I'll probably throw some images up, but it's like when I was in the Scotland Koi show, I saw an Asagi, which I instantly knew was one from your line because of the way that like the head shape and the color of it. And you see it's like so common, and it's really easy to, well, it's not easy, but it's almost like fascinating to be able to see these different lineage traits in your lines, and it's so definable. And I guess that's what being a koi breeder is about. You want people to like automatically recognize your fish, right? That's a cool thing, isn't it, when somebody can see that kind of quality and associate it with your farm.
Absolutely. And on that, actually, at that koi show, I think one of our Asagis won best Asagi in the show. That might be the one at the Scottish koi show. I visited, but in terms of the having backups of a particular good line. So don't worry, Joe, we've got backups, both females and
I see you can sleep at night now.
Yeah, it'll be all right. But I haven't yet bred from our own koi. Yeah, so part of our modus operandi has always been buy the best we can from Japan, using connections, relationships with breeders, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Put them together into different combinations and look for eureka combinations. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was having a chat with Tanaka Kazuo. I went there to buy platinum because I wanted to add platinum, Wagoi platinum, to our range. And I went there to buy platinum, ended up also buying an Igoromo, which actually we did breed from, but wasn't a great breeder. It's now with a hobbyist and won first in its size 7 Koromo at all the shows it went to this year, including the National and the All England and the Great British Koi. Yeah, so it was a good fish. Anyway, I went there to buy platinum, and actually, you go to Kazuo, and he's got lots of platinums. It was perfect for what I wanted, although she never bred. So actually, but anyway, while we were there, he also spotted all the other fish that he breeds, the other varieties he breeds, which is Gosanki. Now, wasn't and they looked pretty good. And it's not a breeder that I'd heard about or known about before with regard to Gosanki, but with my Kahaku eye, I could see Kahakus there that I had to stay very focused on my platinums with and not pick out the Kahakus. I asked Kazuo about his Kahaku line. I asked him where was the origin of the line. Because what do you hear now? The breeders are bringing in Dainishi this, Sakai that. And he looked at me a little bit disappointed. And he said, translated to me through our agent, said, it's my line.
Yeah. It's pride, isn't it?
Take that moment, okay, add on my reflection that I have made a mistake not holding back some of the fantastic Kahakus that we've had from our previous lines, Okawa female-based, Memetera female-based. We've had some really terrific koi that we produced that I now don't have. Okay, add all that together, and these are some of the reasons why I've, for the last 4 years, I've been keeping some fish from our lines, and the business, thankfully, has been doing well enough, just about, that I have been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is to sort of is to take that moment from Kazuo and go forwards with it. And so, with the Deutsche Chiba, with the unique pattern types that we get with our Deutsche Chiba, and the black outline as well around the tan pattern as well, that is a variety where I can feel comfortable doing my own thing with it, because I can't go to Japan and buy it. Occasionally, you might find a breeder who happens to have stumbled on one with a side pattern, or with the Shisui style pattern that we like, the linear side pattern.
Yeah,
is one of the patterns that we go at occasionally, but you know, our pattern style really specifically for with the market of customers who have ponds with windows in mind.
Yeah.
And so in that one, I've got to get onto this next stage, but we always have a limited amount of breeding space, and so it's tricky to, like you were saying, William. I was giving you the synthesized list of varieties we want to breed. It's still quite long. I really
vast.
5, but that might be too much of a stretch. I just need a bigger farm.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, just to touch back on the Kohaku, Adam, what is the biggest hurdle you're finding with Kohaku? What is the sort of barriers you're coming across as of recent?
The last couple of years, bad luck.
Yeah,
we've just had bad luck, and when you've only got 1 or 2 breeding females, then a little bit of bad luck, and you might not have a batch of eggs. One female brought in, spawned in quarantine, so that's a whole year gone. The next year she didn't spawn. This year she did spawn. Okay, no fertilized eggs. Boom. Three years. Okay, 3 years. That's one. My Sakai female spawned about 3 years ago, and then the last couple of years. The first time we spawned her, got a decent output. I could see what I was getting at. I was ready to sort of go to the next stage where we'll focus on using this mouse with all of the eggs next time. And then the next year we had a really good spawning, and then the eggs were in 3 separate, because with koi breeding, you're constantly spinning plates and prioritizing. I like daily, weekly, monthly. I have to have those sort of forecasts in my mind of what I'm prioritizing. So I have a key female. I managed to get her to spawn right. So I'm going to allocate more space to the eggs from this female. I'm going to put eggs in 3 baskets, literally ponds.
Fair enough.
And we had a different issue in all 3 ponds. Huge hatch in all 3, and a different issue in all 3. I can't remember what it was now, what the issues were. It was a few years ago, but there were different issues in all 3. Just bad luck. And then the last 2 years, spawned.
Yeah.
Last year, I bought in 5 fish from Dainichi from their autumn auction, large Nisai, sort of 60 centimeter, 60 to 63 centimeter Nisai. They do these. I wasn't in Japan at the time. I was over here, did the online auction. I bought in one of the auctions the best Kohaku in the auction. I bought the best Showa in the auction from their rating system, and I bought another 3 good Kohakus from another one of their auctions. Just so that when they get up to a breeding sort of maturity, I've got a bit of strength in depth.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And frustrating for me as a breeder, I've got my males which are still firing, okay, but at some point they're going to drop away. So I've really got to land one of the spawnings with those males. This year, 2 of my Dainichi female Kohakus that I picked up a year ago did spawn at Nisai. I mean, they were like in their low 60s at Nisai, so they're actually pretty substantial
size.
Fish.
Yeah.
2 spawned, but I got fertilized eggs in both, but really small hatched, not really useful. I'm hoping that next year at Sansai, maybe I'll have a better shot from those 2, and maybe I'll get a bit of luck from the other 2 as well.
Yeah. How if you were to say, Adam, like, what percentage of the quality of on a successful spawning where you've actually got fry, what percentage of that is the female's quality and the male's quality, or is it just 50-50?
That is that is a really tough question.
Is it a case of you get a good female, a really good female, you love everything about it, and then you just get a male to go with it? Or is it a case of, I love this female, but I'd prefer it to be redder, so I'm going to get a red male? Like, I could see, like, in my head, I suppose you have to have, the ideal world is you have two perfect fish, but I guess it's not as simple as that, right?
So this is where it comes down to prioritization and compromise. So in that ideal world scenario you just laid out there, Joe. So what we would do is, out of the varieties that we breed, I have a few that are higher priority varieties.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no or very very few or low amounts of compromise. Okay. And then we have other varieties where we'll allow more compromise, because there's a certain obviously there's a budgetary aspect to all of this. We invest a lot in our brood fish, but it's a limited amount as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about how to best use that investment, and we do need to continue to invest, because the breeding is the heart of our business.
Yeah.
Even though we imported fish now as well to provide that wide range for our customers, the heart of our business is breeding and rearing koi. It is a critical part of the process. The Asagi, I think, would be a classic example. As you've seen the female, she's got some aspects to her which are outstanding, and there are other aspects which would mean that many wouldn't catch someone's eye.
Yeah,
that's an example of a compromise female, but with a couple of outstanding characteristics which are actually important ones, and that's actually worked out. And in my breeding year, when I breed the koi. We are aiming to have some parent sets which we know are bankers, if you like, where they've spawned well in that combination in previous years, and then some of the space that we have on the farm I'll put down to trying out new sets,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll prioritise those new sets based on the fewer compromised ones first, and so forth. And that's sort of how and also the market, frankly.
Yeah.
What I see the market is doing, or what market I want to create.
Yeah.
Frankly. Breeder, we have to also create a market. I have to, like with our Deutsche Achievers, I noticed that more ponds now with windows, not every pond. So I look at it, go, we're running a business. What fish can we produce that may appeal to some of those koi hobbyists? I have to create that market. There isn't a sort of a koi with a what koi can you think of which is known for a side pattern?
Yeah, not many.
Fair enough.
So we have to
probably all like your Koromos and Beni and all them sort of things.
Yeah, that's it. So, and then what variety is going to come into fashion, or maybe what variety is amazing but hasn't, for whatever reason, isn't getting as much attention. And I think Asagi is one of those.
Yeah.
Reading Asagi, I thought, do you know what? It's that really old established variety. At that time, 5, 6, 7 years ago, obviously all varieties get some attention, but I didn't think it was getting as much attention as it should do. And we had the opportunity to buy those fish, and then we bred them, and it's gone well.
Fair enough.
Is there a particular variety that just stimulates you more than the others? Like, it's quite obvious to me that this Kahaku means a lot to your business. It's what your foundation's worth from the discussion we've been having, and something that you're really keen to get back on board with. Is that is number one, or do you have a favourite child?
If I do not have a favourite child, we have children, all 3 children. With the koi, it's a little bit different. I can have a favourite. And if I had my way, I guess I would just be breeding Kahaku.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, at one point early on, that's all we did.
Yeah.
The business was built on that, but the business couldn't get big enough to pay the mortgage on just breeding Kahaku. But if I had my way, that's what I'd do, because even though it's just got 2 colours, it's got more than 1 colour, it's got less than 3 colours, it's got 2 colours, there is nowhere to hide on the pattern. And with Kahaku, you've got a patterned 2-colour fish. You've got the genetics have been developed by the Japanese incredibly well, so that you can also get growth potential within the genetics. You can get a koi which will have an imposing body and a great skin.
Yeah.
So you get that textured effect as it sort of swims around. So you can get all of those things with Kohaku, but there is nowhere to hide on the pattern. So breeding them, in one sense, is very difficult from a commercial perspective. They are incredibly difficult to breed, and that's one of the reasons why I started with Kohaku, because I saw them as the biggest challenge. The reality is the biggest challenge to breed commercially.
Yeah.
I have got a bit of a question. I know you talked about Showa sets. How have you found spawning Showa, and what sort of results have you had?
We've had some amazing results, and we've had some less so. Tricky variety.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, it makes it of interest to me. Personally, I've answered with one variety, which is Kohaku. There are other varieties, and very close. Showa would definitely be one of them because of the Sumi.
Yeah.
I really enjoy, personally, watching the Sumi development. Now, as a breeder, I get to see it from like a newly hatched fry, and so, which is more than most, and it's a privilege. But I see that a Showa starts off as a black fry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then everything else gets layered over the top of it. And then the Sumi has to fight back and come through again. Now, when you're selecting Showa, and there are different Showa genetics in play as well. And so the Sumi will develop differently. I've seen different styles, different types of Sumi through the breedings that I've done. I would certainly look to, the breeders who specialize in it to give you a fuller answer on this. But I've seen enough that there are different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And so on some, you'll breed them and the Showas will start mostly black. And then, let's say, for example, our MGS line, at 2 months old, they're all almost solid black. At 5 months old, they look like Kohakus. I remember having a pond of just like Kohakus from the Showa spawning. They weren't Kohakus. Yeah. And then at sort of 9 months old, the Sumi starting to come back through again. It can be that extreme. So we get that. It's interesting.
Well, the reason I touch on it is because I've actually been quite fortunate where I assisted a little bit with a Showa spawning this year. Nothing commercial, with a guy called Chris. And he had some Ginrin Showa from Ogata, and I helped with the spawning of them. And watching those change and how they develop was really interesting. And what seems to be like the hardest thing to hit is getting a good Kohaku pattern with a good Sumi pattern, and then on top of that, having the skin quality. One thing I noticed was the Beni styles were very different, especially like from Hiyutsuri to Showa and stuff like that. Like the actual quality and the style of Beni was kind of harder to achieve than what the Sumi was. That was something I noticed.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is tough. I mean, what you've laid out there is what I've learned along the way is it's all about the Sumi.
Mm.
It would be great to have what, William, you were talking about there, which is the Kohaku pattern with the Sumi. But actually, for me, I'm looking for, in the Showas that we've bred, all I'm looking for is a Beni pattern that could be complemented. Has the potential to be complemented.
Mm-hmm.
With some, and then you hope with some Sumi.
Yeah.
There's a chance factor with the Sumi because of the way it develops as as you talked about. But that I think is what Suri are about. I think that's what Showa are about.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a fantastic Showa without a Kohaku pattern, but you do need some Beni, and you do need a little bit of Beni, at least in all the thirds, front, middle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be neatly placed down the middle. But for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I've got a really so I've got a fish in my pond, a male Kohaku, which is quite big. I think it's probably 6 years old now, probably up to nearly 75 cm. And I've always looked at it and gone, I'd love to see that spawned because it personifies what I think like koi should be. If I throw it up on screen, Adam, you can tell me whether or not it'd be something you'd be interested in. No, you don't have to do it. You don't have to spawn it. But I'm interested to see what you think of it. We're a bit zoomed in here. Let me just share the screen. And you can be as brutal as you like. I shan't be offended. But this is one of the Kohaku that I own. But to me, if you look at that from a breeding standpoint, it could either produce a load of ugly koi if the sashi and kiwa isn't as clean as that one. Is it like more difficult to breed with something like that because of the complexity, or is
So,
it just
look, it's a very pretty fish. That wouldn't affect me one way or another in terms of selecting it as a breeder. But one thing that stands out, what I'm looking at here is a picture. I'm talking to you via my iPhone, and so this is
yeah,
the size of that koi is about 1.5 inches long
yeah, yeah? So it's hard to see.
on the screen that I'm looking at.
There we
But what
go.
I'm seeing is a lovely shape, actually. Like in terms of that torpedo style shape that you're looking for,
Hmm.
with the curved lines, arcing lines going from front to back, and good volume all the way through the fish, right to the peduncle. So that's the first thing. I'd need to see the skin, and then I could give you an answer. But the pattern and so forth is pretty, but that's not sort of factoring in my mind. The shape.
Yeah, the shape, the head shape for you is a big part, isn't it, as well? So yeah, it's one of them fish that like it stayed in Japan until it was Sansai, and to me they would have only done that if it was like a pretty decent fish with it being confirmed male. And I just look at it and go, I would absolutely love to see what offspring you could get out of something like that, because it's very complex, but the skin has always been good, and for a male it's always it's never gone yellow. It's kept its skin quality really really well. I think it'd be a shame not to try and spawn it at some stage, but I can't hold 500,000 eggs around here, so but
The
yeah.
pattern's really something. You look at that head pattern, and you see that on the fish's left hand side, you've got the white cutting across
Mm,
left gill onto the shoulder. And then if you look at the fourth down
mm.
belly, you've got the white cutting in from its right hand side.
Yeah, yeah,
And see how that mirrors.
yeah. It's
And
awesome, yeah.
yeah,
But like
that's
I suppose, I guess my question is it easier to spawn a kahaku, which is more like a simple two-step, or does it really matter about what pattern the parents have? Do good patterned fish produce good patterned offspring? Is that generally how you've seen it work, or?
all the kahakus we've spawned have had amazing patterns. There'd be fish like this.
Yeah, yeah,
I asked Mariju this question, and when we were there actually last trip, and he said that pattern does factor in,
yeah, yeah.
and he probably has more experience. I've just bred with the Kahaku's been our no compromise variety.
Hmm.
I've only bred Kahakus with really outstanding examples on both sides, males and
Yeah,
females.
yeah. Awesome. Well, that was cool to get your insight on it.
Yeah, definitely. How much does the environment play to you, Adam? Because I mean, something I've always commented on in the UK in regards to people producing koi is that outdoor ponds aren't really sufficient to produce koi. But how do you find outdoor ponds? And
Okay, well, you're speaking to a breeder who's just flattened all of our outdoor ponds.
right, fair enough.
That's going to give you my answer.
Yes.
We now do everything.
Wow, that's a big shift.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
definitely.
but it's just honestly, it's just practical.
Mm,
It's just practical. One of the challenges we have in the UK compared to, let's say, Japan, and I had a conversation with one of the breeders out there. I was just thinking whether it was when you were out there with me, Joe, but it was actually the trip prior to that, and we had a detailed conversation about exactly this. And he said he was, and I think that's one of the reasons why when I'm going to them for asking for breeding fish and so forth, I don't think they have a. Thankfully, we've found some of the breeders are quite receptive to helping us because they don't think our summers are long enough to rear fish to a large enough size quickly enough.
mm,
And this was put to me by one of the breeders. He said you need 3 months of water temperature in the fry pond. This is from like a newly hatched fry of 30 degrees. 3 months.
Yeah, no
We'd
chance.
be
I'll
lucky
do
for
it.
about 3 days, I think, of
That's
that.
it.
When you have a shallow pond outside, you'd be amazed at what temperature it's at.
Yeah.
It's much higher than what you would think from if your experiences with recirculation systems 1.5 meters deep, etc. Outside a shallow fry pond, 1-2 foot deep, you'd be amazed at how warm it actually does get. We might get 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks of degrees Celsius in our fry ponds, and that will get the fish up to a certain size. With fry, fry are very vulnerable at a young age, and become stronger as they when they get a bit larger. And when you start to get to 3, 4, 5 inch, you've got something that's much stronger than when it's 1, 2, 3, 2 to 3 inch. And I think get there in 3 months. That's what they're doing in Japan. Now, this is one of the reasons why we've switched our rearing approach to just recirculation systems within polytunnels. But the other reason is because of the ridiculous trebling of electricity we've had to suffer in the UK for across the last few years. And then also build into that in terms of the business model perspective, the way that Byer Koi Farm is laid out. We just have a 2-acre site, so we're limited on the number of natural ponds we can have. So all of these things factor in when you are weighing up the cost of the energy versus the cost of labour versus the usage of space to produce a yield of a thing.
That's fair enough.
So we've actually found that on Byer Koi Farm, we are getting a better yield by rearing egg to first selection now inside, even though for the first few months it costs more per month to rear. It takes more labour actually for the first few months to get to that point. But then over a 12-month cycle, it's much more efficient for me. Versus the natural pond environment for fry. And it also means that I have a longer period where I can hold them at higher temperatures more easily. So I can deal with that that aspect that we're talking about. Okay, that's how we're dealing with it.
No, that's fair enough. How do you use your freshwater? Because obviously you're on a farm. Have you got like a borehole or a well, or are you using tap water? Or
we use borehole. We're based in South Hertfordshire, in the Chiltern Hills, basically on chalk, and so we use borehole water. We have to go 110 meters down. That water that we get is hard water. It has a pH of 7.52. Okay, it has obviously has no chlorine, which is very handy.
Yeah.
It's incredibly low in heavy metals.
Yeah.
And it's so
yeah, ideal.
And do you swap out lots of fresh water? I mean, someone like me who was in a conventional pond, I found a trickle system is hugely beneficial for growth. And obviously, we're aware of farms in Japan; they'll drop 60% a day if they have to. Are you similar on that approach, or do you rely on filters? Or
we've lost Joe.
Sorry. Keep going. I'll sort it out.
Keep going. All right. Yeah. Inside, it's all recirculation systems, recirculate culture systems.
So no trickle at all. No, you don't drop water. Or...
Heavy filtration and lots of water changing. We probably change 5% a day on each system.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I'll prioritize as well. So I might, on average, that's what I'll do. But there's lots of small little tweaks that I might do to prioritize resources towards the most sensitive areas of the farm, or the areas that are most in need, or the areas that will most benefit from going to 6 or 7% water change a day. Yeah, and then where I will bring others back to 2 or 3%. So I'm making small tweaks like that, but in general, yes, use as much water as I can in the most sensitive stroke areas of most opportunity.
Did you also have an optimum temperature you like to push to for growth? Do you have limits?
Okay, yes. In general for koi, this is, even as I say this, I'm going to argue against myself in a moment, 22 to 23 degrees. That's your general Celsius, 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. Generalizing is a great temperature for growing koi. Now, up to Tosai, so for the first 12 months, the fish can take a slightly warmer temperature, but when you go above 25 degrees, which is one of the reasons why it was interesting that conversation that I related to you that I had when I was in Japan, but about the 30-degree Celsius water. In actual fact, above 25 degrees, the absorption of the nutrients from the food is slightly impaired.
Right.
Some of our systems are actually withhold feeding if the temperature goes above, it gets close to 30. In part because I'm also managing the ammonia and the toxicity aspects of the ammonia, because ammonia becomes more toxic the higher the temperature for a given pH. So you're always juggling all these different things.
Yeah.
In a domestic environment, no problem. But in a commercial environment like mine, where I have to be able to exploit the systems as best I can which is part of what we do, then yeah, I'm making small tweaks and we're monitoring all of this sort of stuff.
That's fair enough. I mean, you might be able to share some more knowledge on this. I mean, for me personally, I've always found when you start pushing the temps, Sumi can suffer, especially on like when Sanzai, Yonsai sort of age, when they start getting to that age. I always find if you start pushing like over 24, for instance, that's when the Sumi starts to retract. So I found personally anyway.
So the first colour that I get worried about when the temperatures go high is Beni.
All right.
Wow.
I think when you're in these heat wave conditions that we're getting now in the UK, like most summers,
yeah,
I think when your water gets above 30 degrees, your pond water goes above 30 degrees, certainly with Nisai and older Kahaku, there is a risk of the Beni going. And it doesn't seem to be, to me, to be relating to the quality of the Beni. It's almost like it's a chance factor. Something like 1 in 20, something like that, I found.
Mm-hmm.
If they're
is that permanently? Will it never come back? Yeah.
And Kahaku, if the Beni goes, then you've got Shiramuji.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there's that. No, whereas with Sumi, and then I think it depends on I mentioned earlier in your podcast, Joe, that I've observed from a breeding perspective, Sumi that develops in different ways. And I think, it depends on which one of those you've got. Yeah.
Does the Sumi vary from parent sets, or would you get different Sumi from the same parent set?
You definitely get different Sumi from the same parent set.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting.
On that, therefore, the offspring that we're most interested in is where the Sumi is most like what I've started on the female side.
Mm.
That's what I look mostly for, because it's almost like to stay true to what we're aiming. But I'll give you one example. Our MGS, which was a female from Ueno. I had some koi in one of the spawnings where the Sumi was just on the red. Or it's just on the Beni. Like with a Showa, that's not really what you want to aim at.
Mm-hmm.
There was a handful, literally just a handful of koi out of a whole spawning. They had some really interesting traits. So I reared them to Tosai, and then I took one on to Nisai. And once the Sumi develops, it was just developing just on top of the red. And I didn't know it at the time, but I now understand that's a whole different variety.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Pura, I've seen it described.
Mm.
And that came out of a Showa spawning. And it was a different Sumi style.
Mm.
Some like the Sumi style mainly that I'm aiming for from that MGS line, that Ueno baseline, is you see the bluish
Sumi almost.
Yeah, developing from the centre of the scale outwards.
Yeah.
And I'm more comfortable with that.
Mm.
And that's sort of what I'm aiming at.
Yeah.
That is what I'm aiming at with that particular line.
That's fair enough.
So for people out there that are listening to this and think, I really like the sound of some of these fish. When approximately will your Tosai be available for people to start buying?
Great question, Joe.
It's the important one.
Our annual cycle follows this path: March, April, May, Tosai harvest, and we make them available then. And the exact month out of those 3 months, which it is, will depend on what the spawning cycle was the previous summer.
Yeah.
That's generally our that's our Tosai.
Yeah, awesome.
We have small koi mixes as well. Also, will become available in that kind of window, 2 to 3 inch, up to 5 to 6 to 8 inch, but individual Tosai.
Yeah, and you are heading out to Japan shortly as well. So if anybody's particularly interested in anything, do you take like requests for your trip or?
I do, particularly from customers that have been buying from us that we have a relationship with, and where if I put a video to them, then I know that we both stood around a bowl, let's say here at Byer Koi Farm shop here, and where I've got a sort of a baseline of communication. It's much easier to do it in that sense. But in general, absolutely, I want to know what our customers and our potential customers might be looking for. People can absolutely let me know.
Yeah.
And we'll try and have that in stock.
Yeah, awesome. I think we've done nearly an hour there, so that's probably done as a full episode, but I think we could probably do about 3 more. So we'll have to try and get Adam back on, because I think
definitely.
I created a list of questions, and I think I got one done, and then we've just gone off on a tangent. So, but no, that's, do you know what? I think people will just like the way the conversation's flown, and I think people will have found this really interesting. I know I have, getting the insight as to, you know, the parent sets and why and what. And I also think it adds a layer of depth to the story. As my camera goes, it's becoming a theme now on this podcast that my camera goes. But I think it adds a layer of depth to the actual fish that you're selling as well. So, like, you know, even if you're just looking at a fish on the website, you can also just see the thought process that's gone into creating it. So, yeah, I really hope that everybody's enjoyed that. And
lineage is becoming so important. I think more and more hobbyists now are getting involved in the lines and parents and stuff like that. A lot more than what particularly used to happen. Do you know what I mean? A
100%.
lot more people are interested. So it's good.
Readers out there, I mean, you mentioned about Showa, Will. So do you think Marihiro, who produces, you know, a really wide range of varieties, you know, there's one of the varieties he does a great job on is Showa. But when you think of a Showa, if I'm buying Showa from Japan, I find Issa quite expensive actually for what they are. They do produce some great Showa. It depends on what grade you're buying from them, but they are quite expensive. Sekiguchi for me is just a brilliant. They're for value. You know, you're still at a higher quality end, you say, within koi.
Yeah,
but you can get some lovely Showa traits from them.
I love them.
Masako, I've seen as of recent, producing some nice Showa, which obviously typically Shiro, but I've seen them a few of them now, and they're quite nice.
Cool.
But awesome. Thanks ever so much for Adam coming on, and Will for joining us as usual. If you've got any questions at all, leave them down in the comments. I'll pester Adam, try and get him back on at some stage again. But I know he's a very busy man. And it's been a pleasure, Adam. I hope you join us again in future, and I'm sure I'll try and make it down to when you've got some Tosai available, because it might be nice to try and grow on a couple of them Asagis this year.
That might be his March-April trip.
Yeah, so we'll have to make a trip down, Will, and do a podcast live at Byer Farm. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a good one, to be fair.
Yeah. Maybe with Kuroku.
Yeah. Whenever you're free for us to come down, you'll have to drop us a message and we can sort it out. That'd be awesome. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week on the Koi Perspective podcast. Cheers.
Thank you.